button. What is up, fellow ladies and gents? Welcome to the Deets with Doctorate. Doctorate here. I'm having a super day. I am so stoked for tonight. Yes, I literally just said the word stoked. I don't know why those come out of my mouth, but I'm so happy for tonight's session. We've got amazing sessions lined up every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and today is no exception. So today's show, we've got another rock star, guest star here with us tonight. One of my fellow colleagues from back in the day who has worked her way up from teacher to administrator. But before we get to the good stuff, I want to bring on real quick. Let's say hello to my main man, our executive producer, Matt. You with us, Matt?
I am. What's up, guys? How are you?
Are you waiting for me to click you in? My bad.
I kind of was, but that's all right. I got it.
You having a good day so far?
Yeah, absolutely. It's good Monday, getting at it. I'll let you get back to the show.
All right. Thanks for all you do. All right, so let's get rolling. So real quick, if you're not familiar with the Learning Liaisons, real quick, what we do is we help thousands of teachers every year pass their teacher and leader certification exams in the state of Florida and throughout the country now with our Praxis Prep series of on-demand video courses. So we got some real exciting stuff. If you know any teachers that need help, send them to our website. We're happy to help them. All right, so our next phase of the Learning Liaisons, one of the reasons why I started this show, we started our first episode on June 1st. So we're in episode number 5, is that our next stage of this company is to roll out something that teachers and school leaders, or more importantly, teachers deserve and they want, and that's engaging, relevant, and authentic professional development. So enter the Deets with Dr. A. So I'm so excited and honored that you've decided to watch us here tonight on Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to spend some time with us. So whether you're watching live or you're watching our recording after this episode on our YouTube channel, welcome. So this is going to be an engaging episode. You can post comments, ask questions, and we'll pop you in the room too from time to time if anyone wants to be a part of the broadcast. So real quick, before we bring on our guests, who do we got coming up next week, Matt? Can we throw up real quick? So next week, we actually have she is one of our team members as well, Miss Samantha Shafter, and perfect timing for what's going on in the country and the need for, distance learning and technology. So Samantha works a lot with a lot of national companies. She is my little ed tech specialist here, and she knows a lot of the real cool tools that you can use with your kids in the classroom, and she's going to talk about some of those tools with us next week. So let's get down to the good stuff here. So I have known this school leader for a long time. I'm not going to say how many years, but it's been a while, and she's probably laughing right now. But I'm going to pop this up on the screen. Matt, can you throw that throwback picture? I know it's not Thursday, but I'm not embarrassed. That's me when I actually had a full head of hair. And that's our next guest coming up here, Monica. That's us at Claremont Middle School. Maybe I shouldn't have said that out loud, but that's when we were teaching back in the days. Probably, I would say, circa maybe 2005, but maybe 15 years ago. I could be wrong. So we like to embarrass ourselves here at the Learning Liaison. So I've known this lady for a long time. I've taught with her side by side. Now she's been an administrator for over a decade, current principal in Orange County Public Schools here in Central Florida. Let's bring on this week's guest, Dr. Monica Gordon. You with us, Monica?
Hi, Dr. Impel. Hi, Jason. How are you? So wonderful to be here this evening.
Thank you for joining us here. So before we get into the good stuff and start talking about the topic at hand, why don't you share a little bit about your educational journey and why you became a teacher?
Sure. Okay, so this is year 21 for me. And it all started back in middle school with that wonderful Throwback Thursday on a Monday picture of us. That's when we were teaching, I think, 7th grade at Claremont Middle School. I was a math teacher. You were social studies. But I went into education because I come from a family of strong educators, those who love to help families and kids and communities. My dad is a retired teacher. And so I went off to business school because I was going to run from that. I wasn't going to do that. Who wants to teach, right? Mm-hmm. And so I went off to business school and came back, and I realized that my passion was really, truly helping kids and helping families. And so that'll tie back into later on where I am right now in administration. But I loved middle school. 7th grade was my favorite grade level to teach. I know that's the hormones and hysteria years. But I was a middle school math teacher, dropout prevention. So I loved working with the lower quartile kids, those kids who had a few challenges or barriers, but still needed that extra love and support. And so I did that for about 6 years and then decided I wanted to take that next step and go into administration. And so I pursued that. I've been an administrator now for, several years, over a decade, I think 14 or 15. I have to go back and look at the calendar, but I've been an assistant principal and principal at both the elementary and middle school levels. I've been a principal at the elementary level. The primary bulk of my work has been in Title I turnaround schools. I love it. I'm in love with it. And I just want to share what it takes to number one, get your foot in the door, get that job, make sure you continue to love that job so you can keep that job.
Awesome. And I know we've got a lot of people watching now, but more importantly, the people who are going to watch this recording, go ahead and put in the comment box while you're watching live or the recording. If you're a teacher, what grade level do you teach? If you're an administrator, what grade level are you an administrator for? So share your experiences in the comment box, because we definitely want to learn from our crowd who are watching us, and also let us know, what do you think about the topic as we roll through here tonight? So we've got a same thing we do each Monday night. We've got a series of discussion questions. We're not tied to those. We're going to veer off and wherever the conversation takes us. But what we're going to focus here tonight, just like on the ad and the cover page that you saw for tonight's session, we're going to talk about, and Monica is going to lead the discussion. We're talking about, we said how to keep your job, right? But I want to focus the conversation because a lot of people might start thinking about certification. We're moving past the certification. This is already when you got your paperwork done, you passed your exams, you're in that first, second, and third year of teaching. We're going to talk about maintaining that job, being a part of that culture, and having that meaningful learning process. So let's start it off. So one of the first questions for our discussion here is to clarify your purpose, right? And this is probably, Monica, this is probably something that you ask in an interview, I'm assuming. Is this something that you ask potential candidates also?
That can definitely start in the interview, but it actually starts well before. So if I kind of back it up to the wonderful things that you do to support our teachers, when you're pursuing that certification, you're pursuing going or thinking about going into education to make a difference in the lives of kids, there was a why behind that. Especially if you're in it truly just for the babies. And you're going to hear me call them babies. You're going to hear me call them kiddos and everything else, because I'm going to slip into my educator mode. So, hey, teacher family, we all speak the same language, right? So clarifying your why. What is your purpose? What drew you to education? I want to know that as an administrator, if I'm especially you're sitting across from me, but more importantly, once I've hired you, you're in the door and you're excited about it. You've got your classroom set up. You've got all the names laminated. And I'm going to say that for elementary level. I know middle and high, you don't do that. And you're ready to go. When those kids hit that door, how are you going to live that why? How are you going to live that purpose? You have to have that clarified for you first. And if you do have that clarified for you first, then that will drive you and sustain you through your good days, your challenging days. That will be what helps you to sleep at night when it didn't go as well as you planned. That will help get you up and be excited the next morning when everything is going well. So clarifying the purpose, clarifying your why, I would say, is the most important thing you need to do. Mm-hmm. Once you've entered into this field because your purpose and your why drive everything, every decision that you make, and it will make the difference between a good day and a bad day for you, which in turn makes the difference between a great day and a not so great day for your kids.
You mean to tell me that every day is not a great day?
You know what, to be honest, there are some days that are a little bit challenging more than others.
I like the word challenging.
Yes. Yeah, they're a little bit challenging more than others, but at the end of the day, I always say tomorrow's a new day. So if tomorrow's a new day, then what are we going to do?
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of people who are gonna watch this recording also that aren't teachers yet, because you know, the two big demographics we work here at the Learning Liaisons are our college students in the College of Education and our people on that alternative certification track with a different degree. So there's gonna be a lot of people that don't have a teaching job yet, and they're thinking, you know, what's your why? You know, we know people don't get into education for the money, obviously. You know, we want, because we have that, maybe there are some, I don't know. But we have that reason of what we do, why we do what we do, and what keeps us going every day. You know, so you have to have that fire.
Let me be a success story for you. I was one of those alternatively certified teachers. I was not one that started out in the College of Education. I started out with a degree in business administration and eventually found my way to my purpose and my calling. So please know that if you're just starting out and you're considering this, it is a truly rewarding and phenomenal career field, and it can be so much fun. With everything that's going on, with all the challenges that we will face, this will be a career that when you're done, you will say, I truly enjoyed it and I truly made a difference.
And what's your why, Dr. Gordon?
My why is, quite honestly, I know that there are certain things that I'm really strong with, and I know that there are things where the places where I need to grow. And I love to find opportunities for myself to grow professionally and personally. But my personal why is to use those areas where I'm strong to help fill in the gaps and help other people grow. So you'll hear me say, and I've said to my staff, use your gifts to help other people develop their gifts. And then that way we have a truly holistic society where we're truly contributing and making it just better, whether it's personally or professionally, a better place to live, a better place to work, just a better place to exist. And that's my why.
Do you think your why has changed from being a classroom teacher to them being an administrator? Or they kind of go hand in hand?
Well, when I started out, I truly wanted to work with dropout prevention kids. Those kids who struggled a little bit, had some challenges, because I came from a background where those types of kids were my family members, where those types of children were my parents, where those types of children, kids were my friends' kids. And so there's no true reason that you should struggle in school. School is a place where you should be able to learn, practice without penalty to a certain extent, learn, build up your courage to build that grit and that sustainability. So school has to be a place where children experience some setbacks, but more failures than that. Sometimes those setbacks are just going to springboard you into success later on. And so I found that, well, you've got kids that are, I was told there's kids that you can't reach, or kids that are hard to get them to move. That's an urban legend. That's not real. That's not true. That's a myth, because every child can learn. Every child has the motivation to learn. Every child has the ability to learn. It's just us as educators, we have to figure out what it's going to take to be able to reach that. So I don't want to give you a whole bunch of slogans, but when I tell you every child can learn, it just looks different on different days. It's going to look different on different days. And so what was fun for me was finding out what that looked like from day to day, and making sure that we maintain that momentum with those children feeling successful. Because when they felt successful, so did I. And so I have that now as an administrator, where my teachers feel successful, where my kids feel successful, when my families feel successful, so do I.
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the marks of an effective or an innovative teacher, is being able to go outside the box to find out what actually motivates that child, because we all know that one size doesn't fit all. So we have to do what we need to do to get that child motivated and wanting to have that passion, that drive to learn. So what drew you to education? So before we kind of talk about this real quick, I want to challenge everybody who is watching this, whether live or watching the recording, go ahead and put in the comment box, what's your why, right? If you're an administrator, put in that box, why are you an administrator? What's burning you inside to do what you do? And if you're a teacher, what's your why? So whether you're watching live or watching the recording, go ahead and put that in the comment box, because we definitely want to know what your why is as well. So the next question for discussion is kind of what drew you to education? So I kind of touched on a little bit before, but what brought you into the field?
Quite honestly, I'm going to tell you, I have a dad who's a retired 5th grade teacher. And I watched him every night grade papers at the dining room table. I heard the phone ringing at night of parents calling him, asking help for homework or asking help with their child. And I watched this from my whole life, from when I was a little girl until I was adult, even, into my career. And so I saw the joy that he had in doing that. I saw the joy that he had in helping them grow and the excitement that he had when there was a win, when somebody did well. Like I said, I ran from this. I was like, I'm not doing this. I got a business degree. I'm going to go save the world, one business at a time, I guess. So I went on, I got the business degree, and then I realized, and this is just my story, my journey, that I was doing a lot of work and I was working really hard and I was good at it. But what I was working for was a bottom line or a product or service that didn't fully connect with that intrinsic piece that I had. It was more or less for a profit margin or something along those lines. And so I said, then I have a father who's in education. My mom also worked in the school system as well. A lot of important people in my life were in education. They were like, you're working very hard. They were working extremely hard, but they saw so much joy in their bottom line and what came from their work. And so I said, all right, okay, I'll try it. And so at that point also, I'm a mom of 4. I'm gonna share that at some point. I'm a mother of 4. And so I had 2 little ones. And I said, okay, so let me see how this can work out. Maybe this will be a good work-life balance. I'll let them get a little older, then I go back to business. That was the mindset, right? Mm-hmm. So I went into it and I did it, and then I found the joy. And then my fire was like lit. I was so excited in helping my kids. I was at Gray Middle School, dropout prevention class, self-contained little class. And the kids were so excited about learning about occluded fronts. We were talking about the weather and weather systems. And I fell in love that year. And, what drew me was that family piece. And what kept me there was that feeling of family once I got there. So that's the reason why I did it. And that's the reason why I'm still here.
Awesome. And same thing to you guys watching. What brought you into the field? I know we might have some people that aren't teachers. Maybe you want to be a teacher or you're currently a teacher. Heck, you just an innocent bystander watching the show because it looked interesting. What draws you to education? So I challenge you guys to share that in the comment box as well. So obviously you have an a business background, because
sure.
We got the acronyms ROI on there for return on investment. So you are the most important factor in a child being successful. They are your return on investment. So you kind of want to expand on that for people, what you mean about when it regards to that.
Sure. With kids and with students, you're going to find that you, as teachers coming in, and let me talk to my new teachers and I'm talking to my veteran teachers also. Mm-hmm. So coming in the door, you're going to be equipped with a plethora of resources, whether it's computer-based, software-based, your books, your curriculum, everything else. They're going to say, if you put a student on a software piece for so many minutes, then that'll help them practice and you can monitor it and that'll gauge where that student is and you can assist them. And all of that is wonderful. We need that in order to keep a pulse on how our babies are learning, how our kids are learning. But at the end of the day, what I found in my 20 plus years of experience is that there's not going to be one resource, one book, not one software system, not one piece of something, PD, that you're going to find that's going to be more impactful than you sitting at that table in that moment or across this digital divide, because we're in a virtual world now, working with that child. And so your return on the investment for what you do, for your job every day, has to be tied to your children, because at the end of the day, that's what you are here for. That's what we hired you to do. When we bring you in, now that you've got the job, we brought you in because we wanted you to work with a certain set of students in a grade level. That's just do the business part of it. A certain set of students, certain grade level, certain set of skills and courses, and we want them to be successful in it. But at the end of the day, it's much more than that. That's just the side piece. What we need for you is to connect with that child. And so the return on the investment is not the test score. Mm-hmm. It's not the any test score that's generated. I'm not going to go too deep into that. It's the growth that child felt and that child was able to create with you there. And so I say at any school, your primary responsibility is to make sure that children are learning and growing. Whatever that is, whatever that looks like, wherever they started with you, as long as they have grown, by the time they finished that year with you or throughout that year, then you've got a good positive return on the investment. And that's not something that anybody can ever take away. It won't depreciate in value ever. Yeah. You're truly making deposits.
And on the flip side of that, as the educator in the classroom, you have to invest in yourself, making yourself a more effective, because it doesn't matter if you teach in 1 year, 5 year, 20 years, 25 years, there's always room for improvement. There's always different methodologies, different strategies, things that you can educate yourself on to make that return even larger by reaching that kid in a lot of different angles. So definitely we need to put the onus on the educator too, to better themselves, especially during now times where you can go online. And that's why one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing here with the Deets with Doctorate, just giving teachers open that window to other avenues of learning and things to help themselves grow. So in turn, they can help their kids grow even better in the classroom or online, depending what that's going to look like. Mm-hmm. So awesome. So I've heard sometimes, I don't know if you ever heard this, Dr. Gordon, about, are there bad teachers? Right? Have you ever heard anyone say that? That's a bad teacher?
I've heard that. I've heard that, over someplace, somewhere else. Not in my school though.
So there's no such thing as a bad teacher.
No, there is no such thing as a bad teacher. So for those of you that are about to take your test, that are in school, College of Education right now, or those of you that are like me, an old timer, 20 years plus, there is no such thing as a bad teacher. If you've ever heard that, then just know. I'm going to clear that up for you right now. There are no good and bad teachers. You have teachers who have gaps, just like you have students who have gaps. You have expected and then you have actual. And so where we need you to be versus where you are, there's usually some type of gap, especially if you're new coming in. So what we definitely want to make sure is that you are coachable. The coachability gap is what I call it, is what determines whether or not you're going to be effective for us as a teacher in the school and effective for your kids. So you have to kind of take a look at, number one, do you recognize where you are in your professional growth? And do you recognize what skills you need to bring to the table for the set of children that we're entrusting to you for this school year? So when I was in the classroom, like I said, I taught dropout prevention kids, but I had students who were ESC, I had students who were ESOL, I had students who had 504s, I had students who had some type of learning challenge, but it was unidentified at that point. And what I had to do was I had to look at what those children needed to be successful and look at my skill sets to see, do I have the tools in my tool basket to effectively reach them throughout the year? And if I didn't, then I needed to seek that information out or that training out. And if I didn't seek it out, but my admin was bringing it to me, was I coachable? Was I going to take the information that they were bringing to me and actually use it to strengthen my skill set so that I can make sure that my kids were successful? Mm-hmm. So there have been times in my career where there has been a skill gap. Not from, and I don't want to leave it in the realm of it's just, first year teacher versus a 15-year teacher. The skill gap will come based upon the children that are set in front of you every year. Every class of students is not the same. So if you have a set of students in front of you that are posing some additional challenges for you because there's different things you need to do to be able to reach them or provide some additional strategies for them, then are you coachable? Are you willing to take a step back and say, you know what, I've been at this for X amount of years. However, this student or these group of students are going to take a little bit more. Am I going to be open to receive that and be coachable to know that, I'm at a different starting point with these kids and they're going to take something a little bit different than I've done in the past.
That's one aspect of being a professional too, is understanding that there needs to be a change in some things. That doesn't mean it's going to be from that moment forward, but the ability to be able to adapt and change with the times, with whether it's your group of kids or what's going on with society, just anything in general is a mark of being a true professional. Because I am sure that you probably encountered sometimes in your days some teachers that maybe were kind of standoffish when it comes to suggestions about things to do to improve their teaching strategies or abilities in the classroom. So
those are the teachers. Yeah, we say they have laminated lesson. Those are the laminated lesson plan teachers.
Laminated. Oh, you mean the teacher that
lesson plan teacher? I'm going to tell you, this is not going to work for you long term.
You mean that teacher that you say, what are you doing on April 1st? Hold on, let me pull up my file cabinet and I'll pull out that lesson. There was a teacher I used to work with, like they used to be like that. I'm not going to drop names, but they're out there. Awesome. So I like that, the coachability gap. So keep that in mind on future educators going into the classroom. Doesn't matter how much you study on your university or college of education, all those great lesson plans and strategies you develop, there's always going to be times where we need to alter what we're doing to achieve the results that we want. And remember, the bottom line is always ours kids. So when we talk about core business, what is the purpose and the core business of your school? So first, can you explain for everybody who's watching, what do you mean by core business?
Sure. And let me just say that, in order, I've kind of grouped these thoughts into three categories or three topics. If you can clarify your purpose, if you can understand the core business of your school, and if you can have a positive impact on culture, those three prongs, then you've got what it takes to make sure you keep that job, that you want to keep that job, and that you have fun while doing it. Mm-hmm. So the core business of a school is, what is it that we're here for? Every school's core business should be ensuring that all students, each and every one of those students learns, has an ability to grow. What that looks like from school site to school site may be a little bit different based upon the demographics of the school, based upon the resources of the school, based upon the geographical location of the school. I personally have worked in a lot of Title I schools, schools that were low performing and that we had to shift and get proficiency up, or we had to get growth up. But at the end of the day, the core business of your school, that's usually tied to your school's mission and vision statement. The mission and the vision statement are very critical for you to know and understand, because if your work daily does not support that school in accomplishing that mission or bringing that vision into reality, then you may be misaligned with that particular school setting, or you may find that your joy in what you're doing it's not growing as much as you want to. The core business of the schools where I have been, and I've been at, I want to say 8 schools in my career, from being a teacher to being an administrator, the core business of every one of those schools is that all children will learn and all children will grow. Some schools had more of a performing arts type theme to it. Some schools had more of a STEM theme to it. And that's fine. That's just a part of that school's culture. But at the end of the day, the core business, and I keep saying that, of a school is to ensure that these kids are learning and that they are growing. Mm-hmm. Now, does your why you get up every morning, why you apply for the job, interview for the job, you got the job, what you do on a day-to-day, your day-to-day behavior and values when you bring to that school site, does that have a return on investment of you seeing that your children are growing? Is it a measurable growth? How are they growing as a person in their hearts? Are they growing in their minds as far as their cognitive abilities and their abilities to learn and maintain these particular skills that you're trying to get across to them? If all of that does not connect back, then you may find it may not be as fun as you thought. And if you're not having fun while you're teaching and doing it, I can promise you the kids are not having fun while they're learning it. And then that'll be an even bigger disconnect as you go and add additional stress to what we do on a day-to-day.
Someone asked before, can you repeat again the 3 important points?
Sure. So the 3 important points, and I'm gonna frame it like this, and I'll frame it at the end. But the 3 important points are, think of it as the 3 C's. First, clarify your purpose. What is your why? Mm-hmm. Second, what is the core business of the school where you are? What is the mission, the vision? What are the school improvement goals for that year? What are the steps that they're taking to bring around an entire school growth model? Clarify your purpose. What's your why? What is the core business of your school? The second one is culture. How do you as a teacher and how do your students feel when they walk into the room? When they walk into the building, what do they feel? That's culture. Those are the 3 things that as a teacher and as an educator that everyone should be able to clarify, understand, and give support to on a day-to-day basis, so that it's not just a job, it's a passion and a calling, and we love what we do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the moment you don't enjoy what you do on a daily basis, it's no bueno. And the kids definitely, whether they're kindergarten students or 11th and 12th grade, they know what's going on when your passion is not there.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. All right. So here's another thing that a lot of aspiring teachers and current classroom teachers need to answer to themselves. Are you committed to ensuring all students learn or have an opportunity to learn? There's a difference. So
Yes.
Dr. Gordon, why don't we establish first, how do you see a difference between the two there?
Okay, so are you committed to ensuring that all students learn versus giving them an opportunity to learn? So when you look at, so let's say I have 4 babies, right? And so I'm going to use my baby that's in 2nd grade. Her name's Amaya. What I want is to make sure that when she goes to her teacher's class next year, that her teacher has developed a lesson, has planned for, has put resources in place, has thought about her in designing those lessons so that she is committed to that Amaya will learn whatever that skill or that strategy is, whatever that learning target is for that day, whatever that learning goal. I'll start using some of the pedagogy type terms. What is it that the student will be able to by the end of that day? How is she going to ensure that my baby gets it? How is she going to make sure that my baby, if she didn't get it, that she can extend her learning or that she can remediate with her? Now, if we plan for those things, and there's actually 4 questions that actually will be phenomenal for you to take away from here, which is a part of Do4's work. If we plan for that, that's different than I'm going to write this lesson and I'm going to do my I do, I'm a model for them, and then we're going to do some we do, and then we're going to work through some stuff together, and I'm going to release it, and I'm going to let the babies work in collaborative groups, and that's the you do, and they can either get it or they don't. And I'll figure that out on the exit ticket, or I'll figure that out on the homework. That's providing an opportunity to learn. You gave them an opportunity, whether they learned or not, that may be how well they were invested as a child. But ensuring that my child's learn implies a deliberate and intentional approach to making sure you're monitoring the kids, to making sure that you're planning for those kids who will do well, that you're planning for those kids who may struggle, that you've planned for misconceptions, that you've thought about, how do I extend this lesson? How do I remediate this lesson? Those are 2 very different things. And so that could be a whole other show unto itself. But there is a difference in that. And so what I would like for you to take away from this moment, as we're talking about the core business and how you're ensuring that kids are learning, when you are creating your lessons, and if you have done any of the learning by doing, the professional learning communities work, or read any of that literature, there are 4 questions that you should use whenever you're developing your lessons. Number 1, what do you want the kids to know, and what do you want them to be able to do? Bottom line. Second, how will we know if each student has learned it? Not the kids, each student. How will we know if each student have learned whatever that lesson piece was for that day? The third question is, what are you going to do, or how are you going to respond when some of them don't learn it? Because you're going to have some that didn't get it that first or second time.
And that, I think that honestly, they're all important, but I think that one is the most important, especially when it comes to the teachers out there that are, well, I got to move on to the next thing.
Yes.
And I know it's easier said than done, but the true mark of being that effective educator is knowing where all your students are and being able to meet them and help them in the process. And that, that takes some skill and self-reflection and strategy by itself. But, that's definitely a big point that I want people to take away from that. The
final question is, how will we extend or stretch the learning for those who do get it? We often lose sight of that because we're always in the, well, when my babies don't get it, what am I going to do? But we need to think about that and also think about those kids who do get it. Now, how do we extend that learning? Those 4 questions I think are great foundations when you start thinking about equity in your classrooms, and are you providing an equitable learning experience for all of them, no matter where they're starting? Yeah, we got to challenge those learners that are getting stuff done and understanding it at a quicker pace than other people. So awesome. All right. Well, so the next question is, do you understand your school's why? All right. So you want to expand on that one for our viewers? We kind of touched upon that a little bit, but understanding your school's why is simply understanding that purpose, that core business. At the end of the day, all kids should be able to learn and grow, but what does that look like in your school building? What does that feel like in your school building? How is your administration or your leadership team frame that for the goals that they have set for that particular school year? So that is their why. If you really want to impress your administrator, ask them what the school improvement goals are. Ask them, can you sit on the committee to help develop the school improvement goals? Or ask them, can you be on the committee to help monitor those goals throughout the year and make sure that the action steps are being fully implemented in the school? Now that's really impressive. So just make sure that you understand your school's why. The overall why is all babies can learn, but how do we make sure our specific set of kids learn at this school? That's your why you want to ask and make sure you're aware of.
All right. So a lot of times when people hear the word culture, they think of people's backgrounds, right? Their way of life. But obviously there's many different definitions and different scenarios with culture. So when we talk about school and all of the pedagogy and the books and especially the college students in their classrooms and the colleges of education across the country, talk about the culture of your school or the culture of your classroom. So
Sure.
How do we want teachers and students to feel when they walk into the school every morning as a definition of culture? Right. So what is your take on that?
I would definitely say, and I've actually done this with my staff during pre-planning. If I were to take it 2 classrooms and I were to open the blinds fully, so that way, if you are a new parent, you're coming to my school, we're going down the sidewalk, I'm giving you the tour, I'm welcoming you to our schools. We're going to say USA Elementary School. So that way it can be applicable to everybody, or USA Middle School or USA High School.
Mm-hmm.
And your blinds are open and you're in there teaching. And that parent is there, I'm going to do like this, I'm going to let the parent choose the teacher just from walking around the school. Mm-hmm. So while they're walking around the school, they can't hear you or the children. All they can do is see from a window your class.
Mm-hmm.
And they're able to observe you teaching live. And so they've got classroom A and classroom B. What is it that you believe that parent would want to see happening? Can't hear, see.
Mm-hmm.
So that way that parent can say, I want this room versus that room. I want her room versus his room, or I want her room versus her room. Your classroom culture should be something that you should be able to see from a distance. I should be able to see it and feel it before I even step foot in the room and hear that lesson that you're teaching in that day. It's about how your room, the environment is set up. Is it warm? Is it welcoming? Is it engaging? Not overly stimulating. So sometimes we go to the other end, but is it warm and welcome and engaging? Do your children feel like they have a place in that room? Does that room welcome and invite them? Do they feel like this is my home away from home? That's your classroom culture. So the first step is just the physical presence of the room. The second step of your classroom culture is, how have you taken your children's individuality, what they like, what they don't like? Do you know them? And make sure that when they're in that room, they can see a little part of themselves at some point in that room. Even when you're designing your lessons, your children should be able to say, I can see myself in this lesson.
Do you think this transcends grade levels? Is this across the board for
I would say K-12. Maya, I started with her, is a gymnast. And so anything that her teacher is going to say, if she incorporates anything about gymnastics or sports into her lessons, my child is going to be able to connect with that because she can see herself within that lesson. So Amaya's favorite color is purple too. So if there's any purple, if there's any decoration of the classroom or making of the rules and you've done it collaborative, your kids will see themselves in that room. Now, let's take that approach to a school as an administrator. When my faculty and my staff walk into the building in the morning, how do they feel? How does it feel? Do they feel like they're at home? Is it warm? Is it inviting? Is it welcoming? Can they see themselves in the school? Can they see their interests in the school, how we have it set up, how we celebrate them, how we acknowledge and we recognize them? All of that has to be a part of just the foundation of what a school's culture is. And then sometimes you'll have, you got culture and you got climate. Okay, there's 2 different things. A school culture is what we agree we're going to do together. It's our collective kind of commitments. It's we're going to be a school where all kids learn and we're going to have fun. Okay, that's the simple version. But do you truly believe in it? Are you a part of that? Are you supporting it? The climate is, well, I know that's what they said, but when you're in the parking lot and you have those conversations about, I'm not doing that. They don't really care about us. I know they said we're going to do this new PD and we're going to implement this new best thing, but I'm not doing that in my room. Yeah, I signed the PD sheet. I signed in, I was there, but I'm not doing all that in my room. That's climate.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah. Are you contributing to a positive climate, and are you truly supporting that culture? But any school culture, you should be able to see yourself, you should be able to fit in, you should be able to connect to, and you should do that from the top as an administrator to the teacher in every classroom. So
yeah, and then we'll touch on it more at the end, the last 10 minutes.
Okay.
But when it talks about culture, something also have to take into account of this is, what the new normal. We don't know exactly what's going to happen when school starts. Some people might say, well, how does the culture going to fit in then if I'm not seeing my kids every single day, or it's a mixture, or maybe it's at home all the time? So that's something too that educators need to, train themselves on if they don't know already, but you could still create that culture and that climate, even though it's through distance learning as well. So
I 100% agree. 100% agree. And that actually takes me to another point of relational capacity. Your relational capacity in your school is equally important to your culture and your climate of your school. And relational capacity, it's just the capacity for us to relate, period. I'm just going to be very simple with it. So during those times in which things are good and everything's going wonderful, we're going to say pre-spring break, when everything was wonderful, we were all making progress, we were growing, we could see the growth in our kids. Had we learned enough about each other, had we connected with enough with each other, that now when it's more stressful and it's more unknown, do we have enough foundation to that where we can definitely still stick together, where we don't fall apart, where we still hold on to our core purpose, where we still understand and still can live our why? Did you make enough connections, authentic connections with your kiddos, so that even though they're not physically sitting in front of you and you may be looking at them on a computer screen, do you still have that connection? Do they still miss you? Do they still enjoy just hearing you and talking to you? Have you made that? That's the relational capacity piece. And it is vitally important that if you're going into a school, or you are currently have been in a school for a long time, you need to really ask yourself, what is my relational capacity to my students? Usually it's pretty strong. But what is my relational capacity to the members of my team? If you're on the seventh grade team at a school, what do you know about these people beyond what unit we're going to teach this week? Do you understand what's going on with them as a human, as a person? Do you understand what their goals are? Do you know their why? Equally important, so very important, as an administrator, you must have relational capacity with your staff, your faculty and your staff. Do you know your principal, other than what you can find on LinkedIn or what you can Google? Do you know that person? Why they are there and their why? It's so vitally important that you share that. And when you have strong relational capacity at all of those levels, it truly makes a phenomenal school culture to work.
And if you're a classroom teacher, my challenge to you is next time you go to campus, run up to your principal and go, "Excuse me, what's your why?" And let me know what they say. Okay. So we're talking about culture. So you explain what culture is, the variation of it, not just the family background, culture of the classroom, culture of the school. So a good question, this is probably an interview question too for prospective teachers, is how can you contribute to the culture of your school? So what do you have to say about that, Dr. Gordon? How would you answer that? How would you help teachers understand the meaning behind that question?
So I'm going to start back to where we began, knowing your why. Because if you come in a different place and I tell my staff, rub it out, just if you got that stress in your chest, go ahead and rub that out, because that'll translate to somebody else and we don't need that. So how do you create? Repeat your question, Dr. Impel.
It said, how are you contributing to the culture of your school?
Okay. So first of all, coming in, knowing your why, understanding what you're there to do and what brings you joy. Also looking at, I'm going to connect it back to the core purpose, the core business, looking at what's the goals of the school. Do you connect with those goals? Or do you believe that those goals are equally as important? Can you see how those goals trickle down to your students, to the baby sitting right there in front of you? If it's to increase reading proficiency, in your students who speak, your ESOL students? Do you have ESOL students sitting in front of you? And do you know where they are? And are they growing? And do you know how to reach those kiddos? Because if you're trying to create a culture of inclusiveness and equity, then you have to be able to take all of those broad kind of umbrella topics and make it something concrete and actionable. And also looking at that the school is, and a school is more than just the building. The school is not the building. The school is not the tables and the manipulatives in the Tupperware on the shelves. The school is the people. The school is the teachers, the kids, the families, the front office staff, the custodial staff, the food nutrition service staff. That's the school. So do you have a culture in which everybody that's a part of that school feels connected? Do you know who those people are? Do you do things beyond your, if your contract starts at 8 and you're done at 3:30, do you come in right at 7:58, just long enough to get to the door by 8 o'clock? And then do you leave right at 3:29 so that you can be in your car by 3:30? If you are doing that, then you're not contributing to the school beyond your one small classroom. The school is one living, beautiful, breathing organism, one big body. Are you a part of the any committees? Are you a part of the Sunshine Committee? Do you know who's on the Sunshine Committee? Are you a part of any of the committees or any of the groups that help to organize the after-school events, any of the clubs? I'm not saying you have to sponsor all of these things, but do you know who these people are? Do you know how to support them so that way they don't get burnt out? Do you know how to support your administration with giving them feedback? A good friend of mine said that that when we don't give appropriate feedback and we don't give authentic or honest feedback, then we give people a sense of comfort that they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
So if you're not being authentic and giving that feedback and contributing and seeing how you have a bigger thumbprint that you can put on that school outside of your classroom, then you may not necessarily be contributing to the full culture of it. And you might be limiting yourself to experiencing the full culture of your school outside of your classroom.
Yeah, and you said something very, very good before, something that stood out. And you made that, and we talked about this a little before we actually went on air, is you made the comment, and I'm obviously don't remember word for word, but you talked about how the school is not just the physical school. It's the relationships. It's everybody working together. It's all of those intangible things. And that's something, when you're talking about that, made me think about when schools closed down, when COVID hit and the pandemic started, you know, how were the relationships? How was the culture of your school when there was no going to school physically? Were there relationships? Did teachers help each other? Were they there for the kids? So that's a good challenge to you guys who are teachers currently working. Think about when all of that hit and everything changed like that. How did people react? And that can really, I don't know if you think about, Dr. Gordon, I don't know if this really applies, but that could be a good temperature gauge to see, is there really a strong culture at your school? Because if people didn't talk and everyone's like, what's going on? No one's here to help me. Probably a big red flag that we need to self-reflect and see the culture in the school versus I've heard some great stories and some horror stories, but I heard of teachers that everybody was working together. Everybody's on the phone. Everyone's teaching each other, sharing ideas, and they were all working together. So something to think about if you're a current classroom teacher. Think about when schools closed, what that relationship was. It people helping each other, or was everybody feeding for themselves? So that's what made me think about.
That's a phenomenal point, Dr. Ampel. And quite honestly, this time and this moment with everything that's happened with the schools closing, our school never closed. Our school never closed. Our building closed, but not our school. And so you find that those teams, because, you know, you'll find schools, you have teams that are closer knit. Some teams are a little bit, you know, it's family. Sometimes it's just function in the family. So you found that what we found is that our teams came closer together, and those that were strong even became even stronger. And that goes back to that relational capacity piece. Don't take for granted your team. You are not doing this by yourself. I promise you, every teacher on your campus has the same goal, has the same set of expectations of making sure their kids grow that year, and they're facing the same types of problems. Do not struggle by yourself behind closed doors. Coming out and let's struggle together, because I promise you, together it will move much faster, and our kids will benefit from it much more quickly. So it is a good temperature gauge. How did your school fare? How did your relationship with your peers fare once we had to shift to distance learning. And there's a question mark about what we're going to shift to, and we're not going to necessarily get into that. But right now in this moment, what can you do to strengthen those bonds between your team members, between those members of your school from a distance? That's going to be vitally important no matter how we shift and start back learning in the fall. That relationship piece is the common thread to everything, to making sure that a school is successful. It is the bedrock of culture.
Awesome. All right. So where is your thumbprint beyond the classroom? So what does that mean to you when you talk about your thumbprint beyond the classroom?
Right. So beyond the classroom, so let me talk to my teachers, right? Hey, teacher family, how we doing? Is everybody good? So beyond your classroom. So we often think about, you can very easily get caught up in, okay, I got to do my planning. I got to get my lesson plans done. I got to get ready for the parent conference. I got to do my 504 meeting. I got to go to my ESC meeting. You can get inundated with those types of things that come with the day-to-day of our jobs. And all of that's great, and it helps you with what you're doing in your classroom with your kiddos. Beyond your classroom, where else would you, if I said to you, if I was your principal and I said to you, listen, money's not an object. It is, but money's not an object in this scenario. Money's
People
not
like, what? What did you just say?
Yes. Okay, this is hypothetical, okay? Money's not an object. What is your favorite thing? What are you passionate about? What legacy would you want to live? What thumbprint would you want to be able to leave on these kids? What would you want to bring to this school? What would you want to incorporate? What would you want to enhance that we already have? If I took all the stress off your plate and teaching was just an easy no-brainer, and I just wanted you to have fun with it, and I just wanted you to enjoy it, and I wanted you to wake up early, racing to get to work, and wanting to stay late because you just love it so much, what would that thumbprint be? Where would it be? What program would it be? What group of students would it be with? Would it be with the performing arts department? Would it be with media? Would it be with our science club? Would it be with music or drama or band? So where would that thumbprint be? If you take away all of the distractions of getting the job done, and you look at the true mission and vision and the purpose of what we're here to do, where would your thumbprint be on that school campus? And I want to encourage you to think about that. And I want to encourage you, if there's something already built, go contribute to it. You don't have to be the sponsor. I tell you don't have to be the sponsor for everything, but can you support it? Can you help with it? Can you bring your creativity and your ingenuity to it? So that way it's not just on one or two people to shoulder. And that's where that burnout will come in. Many hands make light work, right? So if that's true in the classroom, then that's true outside of the classroom.
Is that a Dr. Gordon quote? Could I write that down and put your name on it?
Yeah, I don't know. I probably got it from somewhere, something that I read. Yeah, I'll take partial credit.
All right, so we had a good question here, and I'm not ignoring questions. Linda had a good question. I want to hold that to the last minute or two because I want to make sure we get through some of our discussion. But it's a great question, Linda. We're going to pop that back up on the screen before we wrap up. So our next question here is, so this is something I'm interested to hear from you from a leadership position. So obviously, like we said at the beginning, we don't know exactly what school is going to look like when August comes around, and we know it's going to be different in every school district around the United States. So as we approach any type of change, right, do you have any special advice that you can give to our teachers out there, whether they're veteran teachers or first-year teachers, or maybe you're coming into your second year right now? What can be some advice that you can give to keep in mind as we're going into this new normal, whatever it's going to look like?
The advice that I would give you is to become uncomfortable with the dysfunction. That the abnormal is the new normal. There is no normal right now at this point. But at the end of the day, what you should find comfort in is the fact that your core business, you know what I tell my teachers all the time, your core business did not change. Your purpose did not change. Your why did not change. It should not have changed at this point because of what has happened or because of the big question marks that we still have lingering about how we're going to structure school in the fall. So knowing that, the advice that I would have is refresh your why. Make sure you know that. Look at, if I'm going to be brick and mortar and we're coming back to the classroom, and let's say we've got the distance, we've got to put desks 6 feet apart. and all districts are working on this, then how do I still maintain a culture in my classroom that my kids still feel welcomed and wanted and invited? What can I do to personalize it for them? As an administrator, I'm looking at that. How do we keep our school building, if we all return back to the buildings in the fall, how do we keep that building welcoming, warming, and inviting? I would say the most important thing that will make or break you is your coachability. And we did talk about that earlier. Please make sure that in those moments in which you find a gap between where your skill set and what you need to reach your kids, that you either personally reflect and seek out that additional support, or you allow your admin, your coaches to come in and support you in that, and you be coachable. There is no right or wrong way to do this. You do what's best for kids, and that there are going to be some days where it's going to go right and it's like through the roof, rock stars. And there's going to be some days where it didn't go as well, and it's okay that you didn't fail, and that at the end of the day, as long as your kids are growing and you're having fun and they're having fun, then that's all that really truly matters. I think I used the earlier I was talking about sometimes when we get into this mode, especially my new teachers coming in, they're really worried about their evaluations. They're really worried about, the rubrics. We are Marzano district where I am. So they're very worried about, how am I going to do my evaluations? Am I going to get this versus that? And how do I get this? Okay, so I don't want you to ever be so focused on getting a perfect score in evaluation that you lose the purpose of what you're doing. We don't teach standards, we teach children. We teach children about certain skills. As an administrator, I'm not looking to see how many check marks I can fill out. I'm looking to see how many light bulbs and how many eyes lit up during the lesson. So I would say at the end of the day, make sure you make sure that you keep your why true and pure to you, and make sure that your kids are being connected with.
Yeah, and some of the last episode last week we had Chris on, and we're talking about distance learning, and one of the things that it's also applicable to our conversation right now is advice for teachers moving into the next school year is if you find yourself, once some people hear the words teaching with technology or certain applications and how to engage learners online, some of our teachers, let's be honest, they freak out because they're not really sure, they're not confident, they're willing to learn maybe, some aren't, some excel at it, some are horrible and they can barely check their email, and that's fine. But I always tell teachers, now we talked about this last week, is educate yourself now over the summer, right? Take a little bit each day, learn a different type of technology, learn an app, go on to YouTube. There are millions of teachers across the country that created amazing things that when school shut down across the nation, and they share that stuff on YouTube, and Google it, and you'll find some good things that you can learn that aren't difficult, so you're ready when school opens, whatever that looks like. Because I'm sure there's going to be some semblance of distance learning, whatever that looks like, it's going to be a reality. So arm yourself with those strategies and things that can help you as an educator grow, and more importantly, create that culture like you're talking about with the kids, whether it's in the brick and mortar or online. So definitely something, my piece of advice that I would give educators and new teachers as the summer rolls on and get closer to that August start time.
I am so excited about the innovative things and ways that our teachers have developed, the things that they've developed and the ways that they've been able to reach the kids through distance learning. And we're not talking about just online learning, I'm talking about distance learning, because we're online right now, but to know if we're truly learning, that takes some additional steps. So our teachers have created some phenomenal things to help our kids. I think that those same practices that we've developed over this summer, and I told my summer school teachers, play, now is the time to be creative. Let's be inventive, because some of those things can transition back to our schools to help our kiddos. Think about those extension questions. What are you going to do if some of them don't get it? What are you going to do to extend and stretch those who do get it? That may be something that you create through your digital platforms to help those babies. It may be a recorded lesson. It may be a way to reach those kids through this type of platform if we can't get them all face to face. So please, take the box and crush it and throw it all the way out into the recycling bin. I want y'all to go nuts and go crazy with the innovative things. If you tell me I need 52 yellow crayons and a tug of war rope, Game on. Let's get the 52 yellow crayons and the tug of war rope. Whatever it's going to take. If we're gonna do that virtually, let's do the virtual version. Just whatever it is, just have fun with it. This is the time to really revolutionize and be innovative and creative in everything that we do for our kids and for ourselves.
So let's wrap it up with this question. I like Linda's question. Let's adapt it a little bit. So Linda said, can Dr. G talk a little bit more about what a principal looks for in a teacher once he or she wants to keep them, or I don't know, Linda, if you're talking about hiring them or wants to keep them. So why don't we change this a little bit, talking about the current climate, what's going on now. So what do you feel? Because we know that there's going to be some job freezes and there's going to be some schools that need to hire teachers, because we know they're always looking for teachers. Just depends on the district and the area. So what can you share, Dr. Gordon, about what a principal looks for in a teacher, bringing them on board now? You know, is that something that you can kind of touch on? Is that something that maybe not you necessarily looking for teachers at your specific school, but there are districts and schools across the nation that are going to be looking for teachers? So as a principal, what do you think is something that you would look for in a teacher as you bring them on and also to keep them?
Okay, and I see Linda also said keep them as well as hire them. Keep them as well as hire them. So at this point, so let me talk about the teachers that I currently have.
Okay.
Right. So what I'm looking for in those teachers are, I'm always go back to coachability, because you got some who are phenomenal. They're rock stars, truly strong. They could become model teachers, model classrooms. And so you're looking to identify those teachers and support them, so that way they can also help their peers along the way. For the ones that we're keeping, and we were very fortunate in our school, in our particular school, that we didn't have to have a lot of turnover. What I am personally looking for as a principal is, number one, and I'm at an elementary school, so I'm gonna use this as my example. If I hired you to be a third grade teacher, then I need for you to teach the third grade standards. I need you to expose those children to the standards at that grade level, so that way they can be prepared for and have a strong foundation for the fourth grade standards that are be coming in the year after. But what I need for you to do is I need for you to understand where those kids are. And I need for you to be able to flex and adapt along the way to make sure that those who didn't get it have an opportunity to get it later. We can remediate or triage. And those who do get it, that we can push and extend. And also make sure that this school, our school, is a place where those kids feel loved, they feel welcome, they feel safe. So in the teacher component of it, and you notice I didn't say anything about an evaluation. Mm-hmm. Evaluations are important, and evaluations are what we use to measure growth, right? And that's a whole nother debate. But at the end of the day, I'm looking for, number one, can you do the job I hired you to do? Can you get those kids ready for third grade, if that's your grade level, by the time we're done? And if not, do you know how to monitor and progress and adjust along the way to make sure that each one of your students is successful? Mm-hmm. That's what we look for when we're looking at, who you keep in all the rest of that. And then you can get into tenure stuff and all that kind of stuff and contract status, and that's not important. But at the end of the day, how do you connect with those kids? What's your ROI with the kids? For a teacher that I'm looking to hire, let me also add something else. It'll blend into this. I was also looking for, now with what's happened, is your coachability in being able to now adapt to our new learning norms, which includes distance learning or online learning or platform-based learning, whether it's Canvas or Blackboard or Microsoft Teams or whatever else, or Big Blue Button. There's all kind of things that we're using at this point. Mm-hmm. How are you now taking that strong pedagogy, those instructional strategies and skills, and now adapting it to meet our students' needs, whether they're going to be face-to-face or whether they're going to be virtual or some type of hybrid of that? Do you have a mindset of that? Can you take and adapt that? Can you be flexible with that? So we're looking for that as well. So the teachers that we're looking to hire, we're still looking for that foundation of, what is your why? Because if you have a very strong why, then we can coach you. Mm-hmm. If you have skill gaps, we can fill those gaps for you in time. We will support you. That's what we're supposed to do. Our job is to support and grow and develop great, strong teachers. Our teachers' jobs are to do that for the kiddos. So we're going to do that for you. But if I'm looking to hire you, do you have that foundation that I can build off of? Number one. I'm not going to get into certification stuff because that's not what we're here for today. Number two, why do you want to come to my school versus another school? Because mine is a Title I turnaround school. There are some schools that don't have that necessarily. That's not my demographic. What's your heart and your passion for my particular school's demographics? I would definitely be looking for that. And I will also be looking for, where do you want to grow? And I often ask that in my interviews. We have goals and there's things I'm trying to accomplish. And I may feel that what you bring to the table will help me with that, will help us to grow. It'll be a great compliment. But where do you want to go? What's your 2, 3, 5 year goal? Where do you want to see yourself? Because I also, as an administrator, need to know and understand, do I have what I have in place? Is it going to support you to get there as well? Because if it doesn't support you, you're going to lose your joy. And I don't want that. I want us to grow together symbiotically. So I hope that answered your question. But we can get into technical stuff about evaluations and, growth and all of that. But I don't think that at the end of the day is not my primary reason why I hire and I look for teachers. I'm looking for, do you have a strong pedagogy? Are you coachable? And are your goals aligned with my school's goals to where we can grow together?
Yeah, and you said a lot of things that always makes me think about, and this is obviously for another topic, is, interviewing, is you said a lot of key words, like knowing culture, demographics. As an aspiring teacher, someone who's looking to interview and get their first job or change schools,
right.
Know the school culture, research the school before you go in there, know what the demographics are in the school. Those are things that you kind of mentioned all that in that discussion, but these are things that our aspiring teachers and people going in interviews should know, because if a principal sits there and says, what do you know about our school demographic? And you're like, that's a problem. I
normally say, why Lake Gym?
The what?
That's my school now. I normally say, why my school? and I have some that say, and then I have some that will, I'm from this community, or I know about this community, or I researched you online. And it's okay, Google the school. You're going to see good stuff. You're going to see bad stuff, any school you go to. But at the end of the day, no matter what you saw or read about that school or what you were able to understand about that school, if I were to hire you over somebody that's equally as qualified and phenomenal, what are you going to bring to the school that other person isn't? Can you articulate that? Mm-hmm. That's very important in the interviews. That's just as important as, do you understand what learning targets, goals, and skills are? So I would definitely say. And
if you ask me that question in an interview, I would say I will help the kids in my classroom meet their objectives, and I'll also challenge those that meet them to move them even higher, based on what you said. So that would give me a gold star if I said that.
Yes, I'm giving you 2 points right now. 2 points.
All right. Well, Dr. Gordon, thank you so much for joining us for another amazing episode. Deets with Doctorate, thank you for your time and dedication to the field of education.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. So whether you're watching live or watching this recording on a YouTube channel, leave a comment. Let us know what you thought about the conversation. If you have any questions for Dr. Gordon, you can post them in the comments. I'll make sure that she gets those comments and be able to respond to you, whether on the channel or offline. So we thank you once again. Thank you for your time. And let's talk real quick about next week. Matt, can you throw up next week's episode for us as we wrap this up here? So next week, for those people who joined us a little late, episode is only number 6. I feel like we started yesterday. We're already in number 6 already. We have got Ms. Samantha Schaffner. She is our EdTech superstar, rock star, and she's going to talk about Edulastic and Wakelet. I probably mispronounced that, but I'll learn next week. And this is really going to fit in perfectly what's going on in the nation right now, and the need for expanding our horizons as educators to learn some of the tech tools that we can use in the classroom. A lot of these things actually are free to use as well. And Samantha will go in a lot more detail on that and give you some of the tips and tools that you need to raise your level when it comes to learning online, teaching online, building that culture in the classroom, because a lot of these ed tech tools can build that classroom environment with your students. So thank you once again, Dr. Ray here. Thanks for giving me your evening here on a Monday evening. Whether you're watching live or the recording, we thank you for everything you do every day, whether you're an aspiring educator or a school leader. We welcome your comments, your concerns. So please grab the URL on the top of this recording, throw it on your social media, tag a teacher that you think would be interested in this conversation, and we will talk to you next Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every Monday. And if you want to get the lineup, on the bottom of the screen, text the word Deets to that phone number, and we will ask you your name, and we will shoot you the super secret page with all of our upcoming guests, because we got some rock stars every single week, all the way through the end of August, and we're adding more people every single week. So Doctorate here signing off. Guys, have a great rest of your Monday evening, even better week, and an amazing weekend, and we'll catch you next Monday evening.